While a normal person would be catching up on what I assume to be Rick Grimes' moist, Negan-hating eyes in Season 8 of The Walking Dead, or, the new season of Stranger Things, I'm not normal, so I'm finishing up my heavily requested BLF Q8 review instead, which is my idea of fun. The BLF Q8 stands for Budget Light Forum Q8, which is a community-designed flashlight manufactured by Thorfire and currently only sold at banggood.com. The special price was $40, which I believe is an absolute steal. Of course, unless you steal it, then it's more of a steal. But I think it hovers around $80 now, which is still a good deal per lumens, much in the same vein as the Convoy L6. So the specs. The Q8 uses 4 Cree XP-L HD V6 3D LED emitters, which translated from absolute nonsense means it will output about 5200 maximum lumens of neutral white light in the 4700 to 5000 K color temperature range. It's been designed by flashlight nerds, and remember, in this day and age, there's a nerd for everything, for maximum heat dissipation and based sort of on a Skyray King beer can-sized flashlight. It's made from aluminium that's black anodized. It has a glass lens, the LED emitters, a smooth reflector, a backlit button, a nice user interface, and more. It uses 4 Hydrain 18650 batteries with button tops. So, yeah. The Q8 is fairly throwy for a beer can size light and puts out a lot of light. So let's go and check out my figure. Zzz, says no one ever. The lowest it goes is a nice moonlight mode about 1/3 of a lumen. And while there's a mode setting for people who prefer hard stops of light because they're set in their ways, I stick with ramping, which goes upward all the way to its maximum 5200 lumens and about 57,000 candela, which is a decent amount of throw. Meaning I wouldn't call it a very floody light. You got a dense center with an okay spill. It kind of has a flower petal-shaped beam pattern because of the multi-emitter reflector combo. Okay, the user interface. The Q8 can be run off 1 to 4 batteries because batteries are in parallel. The batteries all face the same way and act more or less like one big battery with 4.2 volts. This is the safest way to run multiple batteries in a big lumen light. Remember, use only matched cells, that means 4 of the same cells bought exactly at the same time, to be safe. There's also a mechanical lockout. Just unscrew the tube slightly while it's in your bug out bag or SHTF purse, whatever the hell that means. So the light doesn't turn on accidentally when not in use. Okay, there's a lot to the UI, but I'm going to keep it simple because if you don't need to tweak it, it is very simple. I'm using the default UI, which is ramping, and I have turned on the lowest moonlight with the backlight on the button off and no strobes because it ain't a dance party. Press it once to turn it on. Press and hold to ramp up, and it gets to the brightest setting after a few seconds. And then release, press and hold to go down the brightness scale. So when finding the brightness you want on the scale, if you release the button for less than 3-ish seconds before pressing it again, it'll go the opposite way. If you have last touched the button more than 3 seconds ago, it will continue the original way you were going. So if you pass up that brightness, release it for a second, press it, and it'll go back down to the one you want. Very smart. It has mode memory, so it remembers the last mode you had it on when it was on. You have shortcuts to moonlight by pressing and holding from off. Although what's weird is there's actually a lower brightness setting than the moonlight from shortcut. Press and hold, release for a second, press and hold again to get lower than moonlight. Highest mode, double click from on or off, or just go all the way up the brightness scale. If you access the highest mode with the shortcut, or 100%, it won't be remembered in mode memory. If you access by going up the brightness scale all the way till where it stops, then it will be saved into mode memory. Got it? Now there are a ton of ways to configure the UI, but this section has been long and boring, so just know it's probably the easiest UI out of the box on any big lumen light, maybe other than the Convoy L6. Runtime. The Q8 has low voltage protection, but it tends to step down and run after the batteries get low, so turbo mode or highest or 100% or whatever the hell you want to call it with 4 batteries will last a very long time if you turn it on and let it run like I did. I use 4 unprotected button top Samsung 30Qs, and you should too. Low voltage cutoff is about 2.8 volts on this light, although I never got there after letting it run for 12 hours. My thermal step down was set to factory at 55 Celsius or 131 Fahrenheit. It starts out, and at 30 seconds we're 5200 lumens. At 2 minutes in, we're about 4900 lumens. At 3 minutes in, we've hit the internal temperature of 55 Celsius or 131 Fahrenheit, and it steps down to about 1300 lumens. If you want it to last longer on turbo, set it to time and reset it when it steps down, I guess. But do so at your own risk. If it gets too hot to hold, then it needs to be turned down or let cool. That's the rule of thumb. At 30 minutes, we're at 1,348 lumens-ish. At an hour, we're at 1,200 lumens-ish. Don't you have something better to do right now, like trick or treat? 2 hours, we're doing 990 lumens. 3 hours, 740-ish lumens. These are estimates. You can feel free to double check my math and then yell at me because I'm wrong. Then it does another step down because of voltage, and we're sitting at 130 lumens at 4 hours. And 5 hours, we're at 16 lumens. Jesus Christ. And it keeps stepping down from there. You get the idea. I ended my test at 12 hours later with very dim light still coming out. My voltage around that time was about 3 volts per battery. Okay, so how about those beam shots? Here are most of the lights I'll be comparing this to. Not pictured in this lineup is my life and the Convoy L6, which I thought about adding after I loaned out some of these lights to Adventure Sports Flashlights, so I can't reshoot it, and here are all of the lights minus that one. All are big lumen-ish lights, but you knew that, versus the Q8, which is a bit throwier than most beer can lights. It has a neutral tint with a whitish center, creamy around the hotspot, and bluish spill. Again, this is if you're looking at it on a white wall, which are not what flashlights are intended for. In real-world outdoor-indoor use, 3D surfaces, involved, it's a nice tint. I started doing this because people ask me to describe the tint, even though I think minute tint criticism is ridiculous because it's subjective, and you will find fault in most tints if you look and scrutinize. Next is the Acebeam K30. I just reviewed that. Check that one out if you need more of my talking. I don't. It's cooler white, and I tend not to like cool white tints as much, but you're a longtime viewer and you knew that. It's a single emitter light. Again, tint shift is in that one, but it's hard to see in my reviews because I tend to use lights in real fake situations and not show them on a white wall. Back to the Q8 for a second. Best user interface in this whole lineup. BT dubs. The Manker MK34 has a lower moonlight mode though, and the nicest tint overall, but the quickest brightness step down. Nichia 219C emitters, at least on optics like this, tend to have less tint shift overall. It's nice and slightly warm. I'm just trying to show a wide variety of tints here, from the cools to the neutrals. Now the Meteor, also a nice tint, similar-ish to the BLF Q8. It's a little less throwy light, but brighter than the Q8. Remember, those figures below are my figures. The lumens is the overall brightness, and the CD or candela refers to the intensity of the beam, best represented in the hot spot, visually, or the bright center of the beam. Now the Olight X7, much brighter, less throwy, cool white tint. We'll look at this monster for a few seconds before moving back to the BLF Q8, and then we're going to go to the Convoy L6, so we have a frame of reference over another budget light. Okay, we're mostly done here. Let's wrap it up. If you don't have a bright beer can light, this is a very good place to start. Probably the best value per lumens if you're looking for a well-made light with a good user interface and a nice tint. At the $40 I paid for it, it's amazing, and it's still nice at its $80 regular price. Now, I'm sure if you went looking for some Amazon or eBay multi-emitter garbage, you might find something slightly brighter for cheaper, but it would also have terrible PWM, a bad tint, and a bad user interface. So I wouldn't go that route. The Q8 is a high-tech light with a lot of technology. Sorry, my writing's not the best sometimes. It has a ton of options to tweak in its Narsil firmware. I don't know what the word Narsil means, but if I looked it up, I'm sure I would be a better person. Check the video description for batteries and links to the massive build thread over on Budget Light Forum. Thanks to the Miller and all the other people for working with the manufacturer for about a year to get this off the ground. From my limited experience working with manufacturers, that's excruciating. So If you like this review, subscribe, comment, give the video a thumbs up, and check out some videos at the end of this video if you're new to my outdoor gear review channel. And if you're not new, hey, thanks for being a long-time viewer or short-time viewer, or okay, that's enough words. Happy Halloween.